So until we destroy our carnal mind, which is most of the time inherited by Adam and the generational curses of our fathers, we cannot please God or keep His law. And we must not try to keep it with our own power of our flesh, but with the set-apart Spirit which guides us in all truth and shows us how to bless God the way He wants us to. You see, God states emphatically how He does and does not wish to be worshipped in the Torah. And a lot of times, a lot of people decide they're going to worship God their own way instead of Yahweh's way. In Proverbs 28 verse 9, it says, "He that turns away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer is an abomination." So, if you refuse, absolutely refuse to listen to God's law and do it, your prayers are an abomination to God. Now, I'm not saying God's not going to answer your prayer. He can and He will. I've seen it done. But according to Proverbs 28:9, it still is an abomination to Him. Isaiah chapter 8 verse 20 says, "To the law and to the prophets, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them." I have noticed that people that play with sin will constantly say that the law has been done away with. And I've only seen true Christian believers say that we should keep God's instructions written in the Old Testament. And that according to 2 Kings 17:37, it says that they should be kept forever. So there's no getting around it. And Matthew 5:17 also said, "I've not come to do away with the law." And Messiah said that. Read the whole thing, Matthew 5:17 through 19. See, most lawless grace believers believe that grace gives them the ability to sin and live however they want to live in transgression to God's laws. And in 1 John chapter 3 verse 4 it says, "Sin is the transgression of the law." Sin is lawlessness. I don't know if you heard me. That means transgressing the law is sin. And we as believers in God need to stop sinning. 2 John 1:6 says, "And this is the love, that we walk after His commandments. This is the commandment, that as ye heard from the beginning, you should walk in it." When a self-professing Christian says they don't have to follow God's laws because they are saved by grace, it would only be appropriate to say something like this: "Then I guess you live a lifestyle of complete sin and lawlessness," according to 1 John 3:4. Most of the time, when we speak of grace, we think it's a get-out-of-jail-free card, or it's I can do what I want to do for a little while, and I still got my flu shot, and I'm going to heaven. But that's actually a false interpretation of what grace is. Grace is power. Ephesians 3:7 says, "Of this gospel I was made a minister, according to the gift of the grace of God, given to me by the effectual working of His power." 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, "And He said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I will rather glory in my weakness than the power of Christ overshadow me." That the power of Christ may overshadow me. The word used here in the Greek is dunamis, which is where we get the word dynamite. The English is dynamite. So, kaboom, power. You can blow up a mountain. Under grace we have the ability and power to go above and beyond the law of God, the Torah. Why? Because the Messiah came and He raised the bar and accountability level of keeping the law under grace. As we see in this scripture here, in Matthew 5:17 through 22, it says, "Do not think that I have come to destroy the law or the prophets. I have not come to destroy, but to complete," or fulfill. For truly I say to you, till heaven and earth are gone, not one jot or one tittle shall in any way pass away from the law until all is fulfilled. Therefore, whoever shall relax one of these commandments, the least, and shall teach men to do so, he shall be called the least important person in the kingdom of heaven, or the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever shall do and teach them, that same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say to you that unless your righteousness shall surpass that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no wise enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said of the ancients, you shall not kill, and whoever shall kill shall be liable to judgment. But I say unto you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be liable to the judgment. And whoever shall say to his brother, Raca, shall be liable to the Sanhedrin. But whoever shall say, you fool, shall be liable to be thrown into the fire of hell. So as we see, Messiah is actually raising the standard. He's raising the bar. You're no longer a murderer if you kill a person. You're a murderer if you just get mad at somebody without a cause. Also in Matthew 5:27 it says, you have heard that it was said to the ancients, you shall not commit adultery. But I say unto you that if you even look at a woman to lust after her, you have already committed adultery with her in your heart. So we see that it's harder now to keep God's laws under grace. He's raising the bar. He's not loosing it. He's not relaxing the commandments, as the Christians say that, you don't have to worry about those commandments. He is increasing them. And under grace we have the power to raise above and beyond the law of God, and therefore we are no longer under it, constantly trying to reach it. As it says, I'm no longer under the law but under grace. I am in no way saying that we are not subject to the law, because we are. And under grace we should keep God's Torah now more than ever. Hebrews 10:28 says, he who despised Moses' law died without mercy on the word of 2 or 3 witnesses. Of how much more worse punishment do you suppose will be thought worthy of punishment the one who has trampled the Son of God, and who has counted the blood of the covenant with which he was sanctified an unholy thing, and has insulted the Spirit of grace. What I'm saying is that, or what the author of Hebrews is saying, is that the ordinances and the commandments and the decrees should be second nature to us if we are under grace and mature in the faith, not holding fast to our own sinful nature and generational curses, but walking in obedience to God without blemish. In 1 Samuel chapter 15 verse 22 it says, and Samuel said, does Yahweh delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of Yahweh? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, to listen better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idol worship. See, Samuel is saying that obedience is better than sacrifice. If you obey God and you obey the Scriptures and everything that God said, everything, because nothing has been done away with, you will be blessed. And if you rebel and say, no, I don't have to do that, that's not for me, I'm a New Testament Christian and I'm just going to walk in complete rebellion to God's commandments, it is the same sin as witchcraft. And according to Revelations, it says that outside of the dogs, the sexually immoral, the sorcerers, and the people that practice magic, and so those people will never enter the kingdom of God. 2 Kings 17:37 says, and the statutes, and the ordinances, and the law, and the commandment which he wrote for you, you shall be careful to do forever, and do not fear other gods. So, how long are we going to do it? Forever. That's what it said. Nothing will ever be done away with. And yes, forever means forever in the Hebrew language. It might mean something else in the Greek, but we're not going to get into that today or now. What can we learn from Lazarus? being raised from the dead. In John 11:44, it says, "And he who had died came out, bound hand and foot with sheets, and his face was bound with a cloth. Jesus said to him, 'Untie him and let him go.'" You see, when we come out of our spiritual tombs of death and are saved by Yeshua, Messiah, unto life, sometimes we still have baggage, which could be interpreted as grave clothes that we're still wearing and wrapped around our face where we can't see where we're going. And we're bound and unable to move. So Satan will try to he will never let us get to perfection. And that's his goal, because he also weighs us down with guilt, shame, and curses, which are the grave clothes that bind our hands and feet and blind us. Through prayer, fasting, and faith, in spiritual warfare with Messiah's help, we can ask Messiah to send helpers to take this bondage, these grave clothes, this baggage, and take it off of us and be free to do the will of the Father. But it is also our job to let him do this. In 2 Peter 1:4 it says, "Through which he has given to us exceedingly great and precious promises, so that by these you might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. But also in this very thing, bringing in all diligence, filling out your faith with virtue, and with virtue knowledge, and with knowledge self-control, and with self-control patience, and with patience godliness, and with godliness brotherly kindness, and with brotherly kindness love." We must forgive the people who have hurt us in the past. Just as Messiah has forgiven us, if we wish to be set free from bitter roots and curses and have our minds and spirits set free from this bondage, we have to forgive others. There's a lot of roots going on these days. There's a lot of bitter roots. And a lot of people are in complete bondage. There's also Jewish roots, Hebrew roots, pagan roots, this roots, that roots, all these roots going on. But what about Messiah's root? Should he not be our root if we are his branches and his offspring? In Hebrews 12:15 it says, "Looking diligently, lest any fail of the grace of God, or lest any root of bitterness springing up disturb you, and by it many are defiled." So Yeshua, the Messiah, should be our root. Isaiah 11:10 says, "And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse standing for a banner of the people. To him the nations shall seek, and his resting place shall be glorious." In Matthew 13:6 it says, "And the sun rising they were scorched, because they had no root. They withered away." So without Messiah as your root, you wither away. Romans 11:16 it says, "For if the first fruit is holy, the lump is also holy, and the root is holy, also the branches." Revelations 5:5 says, "And one of the elders said to me, 'Do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has prevailed to open the book and to loose the seven seals of it.'" And in Revelations 22:16 it says, "I, Yeshua, have sent my angel to testify these things to you over the churches. I am the root and offspring of David and the bright and morning star." A lot of times when a person does not have Messiah as their root, they will have an evil root that will manifest itself under stressful conditions throughout our lives.